What's up, guys? It's your friend Chris Donaldson here, and I just want to personally welcome you to the next episode of the Office Hours podcast. It's Thursday, so this is going to be a long-form episode, so this is a great one for a car ride, to go for a run, or if you want to listen to it while you're at the office. This is a good one. This particular episode is going to be part 2. If you remember part 1 of the HotelCast, we called it, where me and 3 friends were out of town at a business convention, and we just started having conversations about all sorts of things, pressed record, and this was the result. Well, in part 2, we talked about our first time having to do whatever it is that we're an expert in our field. So I told the story of my first real estate class. A top realtor told a story of his first appointment. We had guys tell their time about their first time on television. So really interesting discussions about getting out of your comfort zone, how you become an expert, and why being uncomfortable and that discomfort is a huge part of our success. A couple of housekeeping notes always before we get started. First and foremost, I've got the review of the week. So one of the most important things that you guys can do is to review the podcast. It means everything to me and to our team. We do this for free. We want this out there in the universe for you. So the only thing that we ask is that you support us. And if you listen to at least one episode that resonates with you, leave a review. So this week's review comes from Mary Ann, and she says, Chris is an excellent instructor. Well, thank you. Highly energetic, motivated, entertaining. I truly enjoyed the podcast so much. 3 O's. I've been telling everyone about him. I'm obsessed with instructors who can hold my attention for a long period of time. So, Marianne, thank you. She is obviously an attendee from a live class, it appears, and also a listener to the podcast. You guys, that's the oxygen. That's all that we ask. Go to christalks.com if not already. Join the email list. Make sure to subscribe wherever you catch your podcast, including YouTube. And third, leave a review. It means everything to us, and it helps more people be exposed to the podcast as it goes out there. So without further ado, let's get back into the HotelCast, picking up with part 2 of a conversation with friends. An expert become an expert. I always find that to be an interesting.
You have to be an amateur.
Well, they started, as a complete novice, knowing nothing. Just like you, wherever you start at any industry, right? And you just go up the ladder, whatever that is. The ladder of knowledge, the ladder of experience, the ladder of certification, the ladder of personal development, whatever it is. The most respected physics or astrophysicist at NASA, whoever that may be, is probably an unnamed scientist sitting in a room somewhere that is probably running everything, right? That none of us will maybe ever know their name. But they weren't born with all this rocket science literally in their brain. They had to learn 1 + 1 = 2, and then how to multiply that. And then now that's the extent of where I can go, me personally. I'm done now, but then they learn their next level of stuff, right? Everybody starts there. So I think the number one fear that really separates successful people from not successful, that we've been kind of dancing around, is that you'll figure out a way to do it. The other option doesn't make sense, right? We don't think of it that way. I don't think about it. I don't know about you guys, but the other option doesn't make sense. Let's say that you feel like, I'm going to go real diva on you. You feel like you're having a fat day, you don't look good, you don't feel like being on TV today, and you got a spot tonight. Is it an option to just not show up? Sure. But then what happens?
Well, you missed that opportunity.
You might get fired. Would you get fired? Or somebody that's ridiculously charismatic and amazing like me, you might open up the spot for me, and then I'll never give it back.
Right.
And I would have never had that spot had you just shown up to work. Yeah. And by the way, my listeners know my whole ego routine is a total joke. It's like the monster in the closet.
Yeah.
It puts it out there so that it's just like making fun of myself to be silly.
Right.
But I would be confident enough to do that. Like, I always think about my first real estate class. It's a weird, like, this was my training. A book was thrown in my lap. You start Monday. Start what? You're teaching the class. How many people, what? I've had my license for what? So I had to figure it out. I had to walk in that room with the swagger that I was going to be able to do this. So, yeah, you know, the number one thing I could control was how prepared I was. That's under my control. And the second thing I can control was how enthusiastic I was. Everything else, we'll see what happens. But I had to have the courage to walk in that room, turn the doorknob, go in there, get in front of the room as a floppy hair. Still had my long bangs, like frat boy bangs we call them in SEC schools, right? You know, just probably my terrible blue blazer and an awful tie. There's no telling. But had I not walked in that room, that might have been it.
And think about it.
I might have never got another chance.
Think about when you got your real estate license and you're sending these guys out there and they haven't done a deal. You got to own it. You got to show up. When they're asking you questions, you have to be prepared. You know, and even long after that first sale, you still have to continue to educate yourself, because the problem that we end up running into is, yes, sometimes we continue to show up with them, but then when those questions start coming up that are a little bit deeper than what you're used to, and you're not continuing to be the expert because the information continues to change, and then all of a sudden you're, 5 years in and you're like just as good as you were, when you first started, because you haven't become the expert. You're trying to be the expert through experience rather than through like proper education.
Oh, dude.
Because now, think about it, like
renewing your license does not make you an expert.
No.
I tell people that all the time. Do not confuse experience with skill.
Right.
Do not confuse those two. They're often confused. The fitness industry, I'm sure it's the same. Just because I've been a trainer for 20 years doesn't make me a skilled trainer. It means I've put on that shirt or renewed that certification or whatever for 20 years. The skill comes in with the actually acquiring the skills, right? So, I bang on realtors all the time for that. And the reason is because they confuse the two. And that's if you're a new realtor out there, that's your advantage. That is 100% your advantage. Yeah. Because the big agent in your market is sitting on their laurels, living on referrals, and is not out there hustling for the new business. And the meddling agents are clueless or are not putting in the effort, which is my big thing, right? That's why I wear this every day. The controllable piece of the formula is the effort. If you go out there and you're just willing to just show up, that's what we talk about all the time, that's half the battle right there. Whether you're on the stage for the first time, whatever fear it is that you're tackling today, right? With the online courses, the next venture, the move into a new city, whatever it is, it's just doing it. Like all the time. You wake up in the morning, right? I don't feel like going to the gym. I don't feel like doing this appointment today. I don't feel like teaching this class today. I don't feel like doing this stream today. I don't feel like doing this podcast today. I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like doing that. But you know what? Every time I overcome that, I feel so much better than if I had felt good doing that. Because then I overcame the first hurdle of the day, which was that inner devil we all have. It's like, you're not going to do it today. You're going to be lazy today. Mm-hmm. You're not going to, I don't feel like it. I'm not 100%, whatever. And every time I overcome that, today's a great example. I was exhausted. Am exhausted. But I'm glad I showed up. Yeah. Glad I went. Got something out of plenty of conversations. Wouldn't be doing this, right? You'd have been calling me, texting me, you're like, dude, you didn't show up today? Thought we were recording a podcast. I didn't feel like it.
Right.
What is that? Right? So, we all do it. And I think that's a big separator, is that action, right? You're taking action. You take action. You take action. Even if you're not even sure what it is, right? All the time. So, you're really on the subject of fear right now.
Oh, yeah.
Justin, right? Like, we got into that conversation. So we just met last night, and you're going to be launching a podcast soon talking about this, which is why kind of we got on the fear topic in the first place. But what is it about that subject that is so interesting to you?
Well, I think with me, I think we are all a product of how we grew up, and that creates how we think, you know.
For sure.
I grew up being a musician, playing the coolest instrument in the world, the clarinet, and
dude, that's the one that's like left over when everybody else picks one.
yes,
There's like that, and then like the piccolo flute.
yeah,
Right?
I had yeah,
Which is funny.
No offense to those of you out there, by the way, because truth
Just
be
lost
told,
two listeners.
yeah, because I was little and I was a drummer, and being the little guy, I always got last, and I was stuck with the clarinet before I got on the snare drum because the bigger kid got the snare drum. So
Yeah.
I
was picked
dude,
last.
freaking,
Yeah.
I remember. Wait, you have to put a reed in here, and then I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm banging on the drum.
Oh yeah, it was really tough growing up, and what was really tough is my dad is a professional musician, still is. He's traveled around the world with with artists. Dean Martin's daughter was just in town for an event in Sarasota at the Ritz, and he was performing with her, and it's like, being a musician, one thing you realize is you have to be perfect. You have to perform well. You really can't afford to have any mistakes. So I grew up with that perfectionistic mindset, and in this culture, we idolize a perfect model, and that's what I think we look for as a president. You look for a perfect president, the perfect record. The opposing side is trying to find one flaw. So it teaches us, if we want to be great, we cannot have many flaws, and if we do have a flaw, let's hide it, because if I apply for this job, I'm not going to get it because they're going to see this flaw. We're not really taught to embrace these fears and how we can use it for our fuel. And I actually get high on life by, like what you were talking about earlier, is thriving on overcoming a fear that was a stumbling block. And every day I try to look for that. And many people may not know this unless I tell them. Some close friends to me know this, but I'm going on about 3 months of taking cold showers in the morning. Never feels comfortable, but I do it because right in the morning or at night, I think it was last night or the night before, I took a shower the night prior, and it was like, we wanted to go in the hot tub, which wasn't cold, by the way, but I knew I wanted to go. I did not want to take a cold shower after the hot tub, so I thought, I'm going to take a cold shower first at night and then go in the hot tub that wasn't even that warm. But anyway, I do that because it's a constant reminder of, I don't feel like doing this, my body feels this way, but I'm choosing to do something, and it's actually an indeterminate amount of time. I'm doing this, why? I'm not required to it, but I want to do it. I want to do it because I want to know, what would my life look like if I continued to do this outside my comfort zone. So for me, overcoming fear is a lifestyle, and I think it can change somebody's life. And if you don't do anything about it, fear will totally control your life.
See, I'm curious about that, because you keep using the word fear, and to me it sounds like discomfort.
I think...
Like, you're calling fear a cold shower. Dude, I'm not afraid of a cold shower. It just sucks.
No, I'm saying that I train myself to... I do that as practice, getting into uncomfortable situations.
Okay.
Fear, approaching it, is going to be painful. It's going to be uncomfortable. So it's basically training ground for embracing fear, because fear is never going to be comfortable. It's not going to feel good, and you're going to have to stick your ugly head into that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, but I think that there's similarities. It doesn't make it right or wrong.
Yeah.
But sometimes uncomfort, or discomfort rather, is something that people avoid, and that's where all the good stuff is.
Yeah.
Is the discomfort, right? Like, I got here on an airplane. There was a time where you had to basically knock me out and put me on an airplane because I was scared to death to fly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and what's crazy? So there's an author
What would I
out
miss
there,
out on?
Brene Brown. I don't know if you've heard of her, Brene Brown.
Uh-uh.
So she's really big on how you label things.
Okay. The words you attach to them.
The words you attach to things determines how you tend to start to think about things. So, like, if you change the word fear to discomfort, for some people that's an easier word to handle the problem. Because, like, if you change the words from, like, hate to dislike, different words like that, which will change the way that you're able to handle certain problems that you have and certain situations that you're in, or certain relational issues that you're having, or whatever it is. And as much as people hate the word semantics, but semantics can change the entire outcome of a situation.
Well, some people may hate it, some people may not know it.
Right.
What semantics even,
Right,
the
yeah,
words,
exactly. Right? So yeah, I mean, think about, wars have been changed over semantics. I mean, the way I mean, racism's been changed over semantics.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, all these different ways that, you know, you tackle the problems that you're running into, and it's just like, no, just change the wording. Change the wording. And then eventually, and then it becomes something completely different.
Well, because words are super powerful.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is I think everyone has a different perspective and multiple uses of words. Like when I was talking about fear earlier, with pain and fear, you know, sometimes I know the text sometimes gets off, and I understand what fear is, the difference when you brought that up about where fear fits versus pain. A lot of times we kind of interchange a lot of words, and then I think too, because of our experiences and for whatever reason, I've heard other people start talking about stuff and just the usage of the word or where they would use it, and then all of a sudden our communication gets off.
Yeah, 100%.
And then we're all going about it a different way. So I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, it is exactly right. I mean, and just because we're from around different parts of the United States as it is.
Right.
Think if there was a language barrier, then there's a translation barrier.
Right.
Then me and you are actually saying the same thing, but we're literally using different words, and then it's all messed up.
Well,
right?
like when the lady from Spanx was talking about, you know, what was it? The word tush or something.
Fanny.
Fanny means a totally different word in England. So, for those of you from England listening, you can look it up, or look up the English word for fanny, and you can get the translation. But I mean, that changes the entire approach on the way that you do business or deal with struggles or whatever the case is. You know that words have power, and you have to be mindful of that.
When you what's your thought process as far as whenever something like that comes up, or say, for example, we're on the topic of fear, is there like a process you try to break someone down of like reversing it back to kind of like, okay, where did it come from? Or I feel like everything's always about communication, and there's always, I can go on a whole other topic, but it's just trying to figure out why someone thinks the way they do or where they're coming from. Because that's kind of one of the things I try to get at with people is like, okay, we may be talking about, a certain topic or whatever it is, and all of a sudden I want to get on the same page with them. Like, okay, where are you coming from? So I try to reverse it back of, where are they going with it, why are they thinking that way, but you've got a short period of time to do it.
I would say just talk about how they grew up and how they talk about what led somebody to think a certain way, and then you can relate and ask yourself, how did I grow up? How different it was from that, and then at least you can understand. Here's what when I get to know somebody's story, they may think totally different than I do, but if I can at least understand how they grew up, I can at least have a better understanding of, okay, that's what they went through, that's why you think the way you do, this is why I think the way I do, but I'm not judging you, I'm just telling you where I'm coming from, and then they don't feel pressured, or they're not on the defense.
See, that to me, that sounds, it's probably right, and I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
Your wife's a therapist.
What's that? Of course, right? Your wife's a therapist. Yeah. Oh, so you're in therapy all the time.
Always.
Dude, she's twisting your brain every time she gets a chance.
Time she's like, there's like a third meeting that's like, there's the obvious, there's what she's trying to get, and then there's this other meaning that's there hanging out. That she's that's like, that's really what I'm getting after, but you don't know because I've tricked your mind into thinking that this is what I want.
That's like being married to Miss Cleo. Like, she just already knows, and she's just going to... And if you don't know who Miss Cleo is, you need to know who Miss Cleo is, because that woman made some money off of...
a lot to work on with you.
Yeah. But
very complex up here.
But I've worked on myself, because that's always first. And I talk to a lot of other people because I have genuine care and empathy to want to see other people accomplish. Because in my position, I see it as a responsibility, because real estate school, that model puts me in the place where I'm the beginning step of a lot of big dreams. And then when you stack on insurance and mortgage and appraisal, and just all the things that we do.
Right.
So I have that conversation a lot. And so I actually never wanted to go that far. I always want to start with what's right in front of you, which is the end goal. And I always start with the ending, which is, well, what are you trying to accomplish? Mm-hmm. Even if it's simple as I want to get a real estate license, perfect, because I know exactly what to do. Or I want to launch this podcast, perfect. I'll either connect you with what to do, or I'll figure it out, or whatever the case may be. I'll tell you if I have no idea, because I get asked a lot of those too. How do you do X, Y, Z? I don't know. It's really freeing, right? But when you're dealing with other humans, just having empathy that they may have a different point of view, but it may be wrong, and then disconnecting them from their current belief to get them to the new spot is where the learning occurs. So you have to experience discomfort in order to grow and learn. Because if you come into my real estate class and you had an experience with, and it's just a place that I know well, right? If at JP, like think about this. You come to a real estate class and you bought one house your entire life, and it was with a scandalous real estate agent that lost their license, did everything illegally, but that's the only thing you've ever seen, you're going to question everything I tell you. I'm going to say you're supposed to give a disclosure at this point. You're going to be like, well, my realtor didn't do it, because you're thinking of the structure that's in your brain that you've already connected to things. Now, when you put feelings on top of that, now you've got emotional reactions. So the first thing, anytime that what you're doing with the cold shower, again, I'm just a human. I don't know the science behind it, but you're changing your state, your physical state, which then changes your emotional state, which then changes your ability to think, which gives you the chance to grow. And that only comes out of discomfort every single day.
And that every single day, the biggest thing I want better in my life is the area of discipline in certain areas. So if I keep this thing going on with the cold showers for a long period of time, I'm proving to myself, hey, this sucks. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I'm willing to do it. And it sucks sometimes where I'm like, why the frick am I doing this? Why do I want to do this? It's freezing cold. I'm in Michigan. I don't have to do this. This is so cold. I can give an exception, but am I going to stick to my word that there's no indeterminate amount end? But I'm doing it because of the principle of doing something that sucks.
So I think we should we should coach each other for a second. And I really think that our audience would get a lot out of that, because we can call each other on, and by the way, everybody needs friends that you can have the conversation that we're about to have as friends.
Love it.
And this is why. Because if you don't have a friend that'll tell you the truth, they're not your friend.
True.
And if you have people that sit around and just pat you on the back all the time, you're in the wrong place.
Yep.
I want to be in a place where people are telling me, dude, you can do this better, you're making this mistake, whatever the case may be, because nobody's perfect. You're never a finished product. You're never going up on the shelf and your label's perfect and everything's great, right? All those things. So I got off on that tangent. What were you just saying? Because I had something for you.
I think, were you saying
No. What were you just saying?
About the cold showers? And
Yes. I think you're making a huge mistake that's giving yourself an out that lacks discipline by not attaching a time period to it. I think that is a complete cop-out. Because you could do 5 minutes, you're like, I did it today, when you should do 10 minutes. Because then some days 10 minutes might feel like an hour.
What do you mean?
The length of time.
By not giving yourself a length of time, I think that you're giving yourself an out.
From the time you start to the time you
No,
stop.
that's not the timeline for me.
No, you don't have a timeline.
No, I'm saying like the distance, like months or years that I'd go.
But how long do you take the shower for?
Oh, that can change. I don't care.
But I care. Because I think the discipline is it's got to be an amount of time every day that you have to stick it out.
It's however long it takes.
But
to get done with your shower?
Yeah, like I challenge myself all the time. Like I'm like, you know what would suck is if I walk backwards into this, and I do that.
Yeah, but see, that doesn't make any sense.
No, I know it doesn't.
But what if you walk backwards and you only take a 30-second cold
shower? My showers are most likely like I'd say 5 minutes.
Oh, so you do the cold shower not as a.
No, for our audience, this is the discomfort stage. Okay. He's going through the discomfort stage. So you're doing the cold
shower
because
as
I have
your
to take a shower.
daily shower.
Yes, absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
This is called the discomfort stage. He's in it right now.
No, I love it. I embrace. This is like good for me. This is my safe.
I think the discipline is, I don't care if it's 1 second, 30 seconds, or an hour. My personal opinion is that the discipline comes from, I have to do it for 5 minutes every day. Because an indeterminate amount of time is like an indeterminate goal in business. It's easy to reach because it doesn't exist.
True. Yeah.
And people do that all the time.
What's easy about what I'm doing? How is that a cop-out? Because I challenge myself, even when I'm in there, I'm going to do this until I can breathe normal. Because when I started, it was like, I go in there and get my mind right and say, I'm doing this every day, and I better get my mind right, and I better get comfortable with this because I'm not going to freaking cop out. I don't know what you mean by, because I can stay in there for a freaking hour if I wanted myself to.
Why is a 100-meter dash 100 meters?
Because it's okay, I'll go with you. It's a certain distance.
But why? Why isn't it just whatever distance you feel like
So
running?
you can have a judge, so you can judge, so you can relate to somebody else's time, maybe. Like, I don't know.
But what if you want to run the race backwards and I want to run forwards? But it's a 100-meter dash and we're at the track and field championships. Why does it have to be 100 meters? Why can't it just be whatever distance you feel like?
So you can declare somebody a winner. You can compare them to
So
somebody
it's
else.
measurable.
So it's measurable.
Okay.
So it's measurable.
Okay.
All I'm arguing is all those things are great. And by the way, I don't do it, and
Yeah.
and that's something that's been on my list.
So what's your challenge? That's what where you're getting, because I want to understand. I feel like
a defined time period, I think, would make that exercise.
You think it would
more
make it more
fruitful for you.
difficult, or I'm trying to?
I think it would become measurable. The I did it would be that I did the 5 minutes or 10 minutes
So
or
yeah,
30
so like
minutes.
so if you're telling your story about cold showers, right?
Okay.
Because
Which I
this
think
is
is
a
awesome.
journey, just
Okay.
like if you've heard of David Goggins and his ability, his measurable things he's done.
That
Okay.
dude's just
Like
so
when
freak.
he says
Awesome.
like I stretch, he says I stretch for 2 hours. He doesn't just sit down and just start stretching and then whenever he's done.
So what are you guys suggesting?
So the
that-
suggestion is that make it measurable. So okay, for 2 years or 3 years or for 5 years or whatever the time.
So you're
the
talking about-
distance is,
you're talking
is
about
that you did
distance,
it
you're
for
not talking
10
about
minutes
timing.
or 15 minutes every single day, so that when you're done, and someone says, "So tell me about your cold shower experience," that you have a definitive.
Okay, how about this?
measurable-
Because this is not uncomfortable for me whatsoever. You guys don't know my story, and just like I don't know your story, and I look forward to getting to know that. But for me, one thing you'll realize is I think I'm way more willing than most people to step outside my comfort zone. So if you want me to set a set amount of time, which, I mean, I could make it up, say 3 minutes. I'll take a 3-minute cold shower, and I'll do it for a year. And then, but there's probably a good chance that I'm probably going to want to go beyond that. But if you're saying that I should challenge myself to have a set amount of time in the shower and a length of time, then I can do that. But I'm just saying my mind is going way further and saying it's easier for me to think of a time and a distance than it is for me to think of an indeterminate amount of time, because there's a lot of things that are unknown in life. I'd rather look at that as unknown. Like, I don't know how long I'm doing this. I'm going to be okay with that. That's just how I've challenged myself on a deeper level.
So think about it like this: you're going to write a book about this. 'Cause
Okay.
I think you're going to about
Okay.
your journey.
Okay.
Is when you're explaining your story, because what we learned today about business and in life is that you need to have a very compelling story.
Okay.
So if you're going to have that compelling story for whatever it is that you're trying to do in life,
Okay.
if you put indeterminate amount of time, people are not going to resonate with that.
What if I told them that I've been taking a cold shower for just shy of 3 months, and that's how it started, and I don't have an end date because I want to see what this is
Not
like?
compelling.
Really? Okay.
Or do 1 second more every day.
Yeah, I got to the point
So
where
every day gets 1 second longer. And so it's just a little bit more painful.
because if
a
you
little
say
bit
I took a cold shower for, I've taken cold showers before.
Yeah.
Sometimes because the hot water heater wouldn't work.
I took one yesterday. Yeah, shout out to the Hilton.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that does, for your personal growth,
Is it more wealth? More
one
weight?
is one thing. For your compelling story,
Okay.
Well,
it doesn't tell a good story.
I'd like to rewind the tape because, tell me if I'm wrong, but I bet I just asked you why there wasn't a time period.
You did.
That's all I did. I didn't say you need to have a time period. I asked you why there wasn't one.
Okay.
And you've been defending it. And so,
Okay.
and look, just because we just met, it's an easier thing. Because
Yeah.
I want you to be able to turn around and do the same thing.
Yeah, no,
There's
I-
something I've been noticing lately. It's an observation of my own, which is people take questions as challenges. I'm not saying that you are.
Yeah.
I'm saying I find it interesting when you ask somebody about anything, they take it as a challenge, no matter how I say it.
I have a pattern of taking a lot of things as a challenge
Yeah.
for personal
And
growth.
there's a lot of good in that, right? Because I'm the same way, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm the guy that people would wrongly call either Napoleon or whatever. And I always respond, okay, do you know anything about what that even's supposed to mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do you even understand what you're saying? Or are you saying, because I was born 2 months premature and I'm lucky as shit to be walking around on this
Mm-hmm.
earth, that I'm under the average American male's height, that I am supposed to be weak and dismissive and like, what does that mean? Like,
define weakness, define all this stuff.
Yeah, but people don't even know what they're saying.
Yeah.
But when you start asking questions, then they start defending it, and it always comes down to, oh, I challenge you, and you don't like that because you think you're 6 feet tall, so you're supposed to have what I have. Sorry, that's not the way this works. And if we were in the jungle, I would be happy to fight you too. Well, because I would have to.
Yeah?
Because I'd be the most challenged one in the herd.
But usually the person that's accusing somebody for whatever reason, they're the one that's just
Yeah, but
insecure.
isn't there a difference between an accusation and a question?
Right.
There's a difference, right? What do you think? I mean,
Well,
accusations have negative, and you're just that was just a pillar point to have this conversation, which I find interesting.
Okay.
So I found myself before getting questioned on stuff, and then you said like maybe you defend yourself. Is there? But then the thing about it is like, why did I think it was because I never had like a clear answer.
Yeah.
And that was the straightforward like to it.
Yeah,
It's
for
like,
sure.
Like for example with him, and it goes both ways on what you're asking and what he's talking about. But he doesn't have a clear reason or distance or length of why he's doing it. He's just doing it. So, but then that's why I'm a listener. So I'm sitting here trying to analyze what both y'all's the way y'all are taking here. But like you want a measurable. And then, measurable, something to measure that you can, a distance to go to overcome the issue.
Well, you have to measure what matters, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I think that when you guys are training clients, I mean, y'all have to be measuring things, right? Whether it's the weight, whether it's how much tension, whether it's how much they can bend or how much they can stretch. You're measuring that, or else how do you know I'm improving?
I think where he's coming from it though is he's not really looking at from that as far as like the time. It's just he's going to do it until he overcomes whatever issue that he's I'm not issue in a bad way, but just whatever thing he's challenging himself right now.
Right. Yeah, until I have a peace knowing that, you know what, I've totally conquered this, and this is a closed chapter of my life. What's the next thing? Because it never feels good, and I don't need to, because I know the principle of doing things regardless of how you feel. The fact that you do it, hey, that's what matters. But for whatever reason, I like it because it's a challenge, and I know I'm in a state of war right now. And that, when you're in your 20s, 30s, this is your fight in your life to establish yourself as who you are, what you're wanting to pursue. I don't want to be complacent and comfortable. That's why I'm moving to LA in about 6-7 months. This is my time. I happen to be single right now. This is my chance to fight for what I'm going for in life. And if something is not easy, then you're probably going in the right direction, because I believe there's good and evil, and you're going to have opposing forces. And if you have the easy route out, which I think is very normal in America, I feel like you're settling. And I just do it as a way to challenge myself. But I love this conversation because, hey, there's certain things that, like with the closet monster thing, I was totally on a different page there. And
it's all good. I may not have explained it well.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that I love you guys, and I hope you guys always understand that I value friendships more than little problems or disconnects in speech, but I always want to be the person that is willing to accept constructive criticism, even if it hurts, but I want that because that's part of my story, and I want to inspire people. So if there was a challenge, and this is one thing I was thinking of even afterward, is this is where I thought you were going, giving other people an opportunity to speak into somebody else's life.
Sure.
What would if each person can give their input on one person's life, on what they challenge that person to do. Like maybe the fear in my life is very evident to you guys, and you guys challenge me with something, and it's up to me whether or not I want to take that on myself.
Dude, I'm so messed up. I'm hoping y'all are going to help me before y'all leave. I got so many things wrong. Like it's not even funny.
But I think if we have this accountability circle where it's like, hey, I love you, and I think this certain challenge is going to help you overcome an area of in your life that I think would really be healthy for you. And instead of just thinking of like, man, that person has a problem with this, good luck with that.
I'd like to ask, and I don't know if this says anything, like going on with it when you ask that question, but like for me, like if there's anything fearful or going back to, okay, what's a challenge, what's fearful, what's discomfort, it's always been like, and maybe just growing up too from experiences, just like I don't have, I guess, a lot of emotion, put it that way, that I'm just like, let's hit it headstrong.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
More of a fit in it. And whether it's mindset or physical, but what would be, from your take on this, is if someone's fearing something, whether it's a course or like launching something or doing
Yeah.
something, is it kind of just go full force, or is it more of a seek guidance, mentor, or is it a combination of things? Or
Okay, so you were talking about psychology earlier. Poor, and your wife's amazing, by the way. But my gosh, you've been analyzed every day since you got married. Well, before you got married, right? Something I learned a long time ago in dealing with audiences all the time is that, people are different, and the answer to that question is not the same for everybody. And so, what I'm always figuring out, like right then, I'm figuring out whether you need a little bit of push or whether you need a little bit of finesse. And the only way to figure that out is to listen a lot and then to do baby pokes that aren't going to hurt if it's the wrong method, and then go, whoops, that's the wrong quadrant. I'm going to push in this one. Because there's four main, this is just studying psychology, and I'm not a psychologist, anybody that's listening. I'm not an expert. I'm not pretending to be. But I understand people, because I could sit in a room with 200 and I know how all 200 are feeling at any moment, because I'm paying attention to their faces, their eyes, and how their body is moving. And everybody's going to respond to something different. So for instance, in that room with 200, just the math tells me alone, some people need lots of emotion and stories. Some people have to laugh. Some people I need to make somewhat upset or even offend, make them really uncomfortable. Some need the projector that moves a lot. Other people want it to be a little softer. And I try to figure out the best way for each person. And that's something that's got to be learned, right? So like you, I would not want to sit across from a poker table, because I'd be like, man, what is that you thinking? At any, right? But that's all right. That's an advantage. Me, you always know how I'm thinking, right? And there's good and bad to that. We joke around about me interrupting because I'm so curious all the time. I wasn't surrounded. I grew up in a country club world, but I grew up in a very limiting family because they want to protect you, right? That comes out of love. So many people come from the same environment. So I've inserted myself in environments like this one where I don't want to be the successful in the room. I don't want to be the smart one in the room. I don't any of those things, but I do want to take the things that I've learned, because running a business on my own for 17 years and having to deal with people, I've made every mistake there is. And I've learned from every one, especially the painful ones. Especially the painful ones. I got stories for days on things that I messed up, but I would never make the same mistake twice. I don't even know if that answers your question, other than you're asking how do you get to it. Everybody's different.
Right. Yeah, it's just more on, I think you answered it, but everyone's, the process people approach
Questions, man,
like
questions.
if something that they fear something, and maybe this will relate back to the real estate, the course when I first took it.
Yeah.
Going into it, I guess you could say I was a little fearful. I didn't know what the terminology, everything they were saying it was new to me. You just show up, and I was like, but my mindset, let's just do it. Don't think about it. And I've always been kind of like that on a lot of projects. Right or wrong, it could be stupid and you fell, and then you're like, dang, I wasted a lot of money. I did whatever.
Well, yeah.
But going into it, and then the guy that was teaching it, I can't remember his whole story, but
I don't know. This is obviously not a Donaldson school because we're not in Florida yet, so I really don't care.
It was a guy out in New York, and he had a lot of failures, and every day, and I kind of laughed, like thinking about it. I was like, kind of funny because he kept talking about all his failures on some big deals, and I was like, man, everyone in that class was just freaked out every day because their minds, their understanding, and then coming again from their approach of fear, they all came about it different ways. I was like, okay, this person next to me was just scared out of their mind because they didn't have anything else to fall back on. Like that was their going to be their next path of business. I was sitting comfortably. I wasn't like stressed. I wanted to do well, but I wasn't sitting there like, oh, I can't go find another, because I had my therapy degree and other stuff that I was doing.
Sure.
It's like it wasn't a big deal. Some people, they were freaked out, and so every day he'd tell a story about his losses or his whatever, some big bad deal went through and whatever in New York. And so going through that, everyone had these fears and going. So I think that was just at the end to where we got to the second week, whatever, 10th day, where you had to take your final exam. And some of these people, and then you add in another factor, they were 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, hadn't gone to school. They didn't know how to use a computer. They didn't know how to read. They were freaked out on taking a little test. And, it'd been a while since I'd taken an exam or something, but it was just kind of interesting seeing everyone's approach to how they would study for it, or just things they would say before the test. I mean, they were sweating and just like, they were putting fear back in themselves.
Yeah, well, okay, so that's obviously my wheelhouse, right? It's what I do every day for a living. And this is what I'll tell you. The easiest example I'd make is of myself. In a simple way. I'm not the smartest. And just because, like, my family taught real estate doesn't mean that I knew anything. My experience was the same as everybody else. I had to go to real estate school. I had to study. But I was so afraid to fail. Could you imagine? Third generation Donaldson kid. Nobody had more pressure on that test than I did. It was my money when I had zero. I was unfunded, and it would be the biggest embarrassment maybe of all time had I failed the test. My grandfather co-wrote the first exam in Louisiana. My father owned the company at the time. My aunt, my uncles, they all had worked there. It would have been a ridiculous embarrassment. But that's what I think about with fear. I was so afraid of that happening to me that I almost got a perfect score. Only missed one question. Then I went track down the author of the test to find out what the answer to that question was. It's not because I'm smart. It's not because of my last name. It's because I was afraid to fail. And that performance lesson alone has taught me so much. Because I was so desperately afraid. I put more, you cannot, anybody listening, you guys, JP, nobody studied harder for that test than I did. Nobody, because I was scared to death. And then, lo and behold, that's how I could walk in that first day and teach, because I had the knowledge structure, because my fear of failure, I knew that book backwards and forwards. So when I'm relating to people, one of the things that I always, and it's 100% true, by the way, it's any exam out there, by the way, it's not an IQ test. And it's not a test on whether you're going to be good at it or not. It's an exam that's put together by human beings that are trying to equate a certain pass rate because it's a business. Your job is to figure out what you need to do in order to pass that exam, to have a minimum. When you understand why they create the exam. So what your instructor did that I wouldn't like, if he worked for me, is he started with a negative. I had an instructor walk into a class one time, and he goes, this was not for real estate, it was for another industry. He goes, okay, so the pass rate on this test is only about 12%, so most of y'all are going to fail. That was the first words out of his mouth.
Wow.
They say that with the bar exam, too.
I fired him the next day. I was like, it doesn't matter if it's true. You cannot start on the first night, before they've even given me their money. You start with a negative.
Unless you're going and applying to be a Navy SEAL, where their goal is to weed out people because they need it. But that, you don't need that.
Well, not only that, but
Real estate, Navy SEALs.
yeah.
if the first thing you say is negative, that's the immediate reaction, the emotion that people are going to take from it, right?
Right.
So I would always put a positive spin on it, which, by the way, authentic positive spin.
Yes.
Not selling you a dream. We're talking about a real estate exam, which everybody can pass.
Right.
It's written at a 9th grade level. It's not a complicated test, but it's a new language. You had to learn a new language. Right. If I was learning y'all's language in therapy, I'd be like, the femurs connect to what? Wait, what? Is what?
The headbone.
The headbone goes.
I know the song.
I just don't even know that.
Care to sing it?
No.
I would have to study really hard. I would have to study really hard. Oh, you gonna sing the song? Please sing the song.
Yeah.
The headbone's connected to the...
I don't even know. That's your job.
That's as far as I got. But anyway.
Yeah, so everybody's got different ways of learning. So that's a different subject for a different way, because everybody learns differently. You know, visual learners, tactile learners, all these various things. But the number one thing is they all can do it. Definitely in that arena.
But going back to,
so I would make sure y'all knew that every day.
Right.
Every day.
what he said.
I mean, literally every day in class.
Yeah, what you said originally was you just got to do it though. If you don't have any product or anything that you want to.
Yeah, and you got to eliminate. You got to eliminate
something.
stressors.
Yeah.
You got to eliminate ancillary stressors, by the way. When you go take a test or anything that's a performance related, like you're going to be on TV for the first time, you're going to do this for the first time, your responsibility is to remove anything that could cause noise that would interrupt performance. So for me, it's show up to the testing center early. Don't stress yourself with traffic. Don't open a book the day of the test. You're either ready or you're not. Don't drive there with coffee in this hand. You're driving with the knee. You got the study guide in this hand, and you got the audio tape, Donaldson on demand in the thing, and you're doing all of this on the way to the testing center. Then you realize you forgot your form that you need. Like, it's crazy. You're creating all this stress. You got to be telling yourself on the way there, I'm ready, I can do this. I'm ready, I can do this. Or just don't show up. The testing center thanks you for your money. Come back tomorrow, because if you tell yourself you're going to fail, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
That's true. You'll make yourself fail. Isn't that true? In anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
Yeah, they told us not to crack the book open the night before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the expert on this. Trust me. No, but I am, because I've studied it, and this is my whole life's work. But y'all, so the audience, everybody's not taking an insurance exam or a real estate exam or any of that. But see, to me, it's a microcosm of other tests, right? Like, always make sure that you're taking care of what you can control. That's why I talk about Everett always wins. I can control what I can control. So if something happens that's outside of my control, okay, we'll deal with that, right? Like as a teacher, if you're married to your PowerPoint and the projector breaks, what are you going to do? Are you going to close? Are you going to turn it? I mean, are you going to tell everybody that showed up, sorry, without my PowerPoint, I can't do this? That's absurd. Right? But that's out of your control. So I should be ready. So if what we're really talking about here is eliminate excuses. Fear and excuses, they're all in the same bucket, right? Yeah, you're afraid to fail. Well, you gave the testing center your money. That's one of the things where when you commit, whether it's money or time or both, you have to perform, right? So that's why I was asking about the defined time period, because it's really related to that. Because like if I say I got to go, at my gym, they have a cold pool, cold dip. And I'm trying to remember, but it varies somewhere around 43 to 50. That thing is murder when you say it is so cold. And I mean, I have a tough time with cold. Heat I can do. Cold is hard. So I have to set a timer for a minute or 2 minutes. I don't even know how long I'm supposed to do it, but I know
12 minutes.
12 minutes?
He's just...
No, at the when we worked with the...
I can survive that?
Well, the cold
I
tub...
feel
It makes me cold already just thinking about
The cold
that.
tub we had at the pro athletes, it was 40 degrees, and the research that the strength coaches pulled up, you know, they're pretty well known here in the U.S. with working pro athletes.
Oh, no.
Their research was 12 minutes. So all the guys would have to get in every day after practice.
And they're not in like a scuba suit. I mean, you obviously
you're in your shorts, and that's about it. And,
Yes.
But is it waist level or neck?
They did waist level. Now,
Okay.
once you get up to the neck, that's really hard, because then you start getting your vagus nerve,
hypothermia and stuff.
and you start having a hard time breathing.
So yeah, waist level. Well,
But
you know, the main
key to
system.
getting around it is you hit your sensory points, and you wear these little socks that go around your toes. Because if you can combat the most sensitive
that's
parts
the
around, then you can.
cheating.
I'm listening.
So there's I forget what they're called.
Hey,
Just like
quiet, Mr. No
toesies.
Time Period. I'm getting to 12 minutes.
12 minutes.
I'm going to take performance-enhancing socks if I have to.
Or you can do a little contrast bath where you jump in the heat first, which because every once in a while I do it, because it does
Yeah.
it sucks at first, but it feels good afterwards. You feel like you have a new body. Go jump in the hot tub. You know, where you're pretty much got your sweat on so you dilate your vessels, get the blood flow going, then go jump and constrict your vessels. So it does kind of a pumping mechanism of the blood within the body to renew the
Okay,
flow
so
of
now
the
I
blood.
have to ask. I'm 36 years old. I work out almost every day. I have a very physical job. People don't think about it, but teaching and speaking, I'm on my feet, and I'm a very active teacher, just like I am a human, the same guy on stage that I am off stage. How often should I be doing that?
The cold tub?
Yeah, that routine.
If you're a perfectionist or just average?
No, to be healthy,
Yeah.
for a guy like me that would feel better, who's had a major knee
Right.
reconstruction once.
ACL?
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah, man.
Anyway,
So when you think about therapy,
I mean, if you
slap that on top of everything.
in a perfect world, every day. But if you were to just be like, what can someone do realistically in today's society when you bring in all the other factors?
Yeah,
of
I gotta
life
get to
and
work.
everything?
Right.
I would say at least once a week would be great. If not, at least once every 2 weeks. I mean, the more the better is my theory on it, and that's just part of the way the body works and the way it heals itself. But
Am I getting benefits out of a shorter time period, or does it you've got to stay in the full 12 to be really getting the benefits?
I think
don't
you
think
can do
full 12.
you can do a minute if you want it, 30 seconds.
Is that helping in some way because it's restricted?
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. It. I mean, ideally their thing was 12 minutes, but any amount of time in there, for the most part, you should get to.
I'll just say this.
prefer-
Or you
Better
can just
with
walk
zero.
outside at JP's house right now, right? And just stand
I go
there.
run in the mornings, and so
Yeah.
there are days where I'm at 18 degrees for
And just
an
sit
hour.
outside in your underwear.
There you go.
In
That's
and
it.
out
Run
for an
outside
hour.
in 18 degrees for 12 minutes.
You know.
That may be better for you.
But the first
I think
hour
that's just as
usually,
effective.
or not the first hour, the first mile or two. So it takes, I don't know, the way
Or
I
you
run
could
is
do,
30
and
minutes.
I don't know the research on this, but it's just kind of I always like to look at the flip side of it. You could do the extreme heat, and then it's the vice versa. So when you go from a hot to room temperature, your body doesn't know the difference. So it's
I do a
basically
sauna
flipping.
all the time.
So go
That's
into
easy.
to heat, and then you vasodilate the vessels, and then all of a sudden when you go from a hot surface to a cold surface, that's
It's the
in
separation
theory,
of degrees.
yeah, the
you know.
separation of degrees.
Because of what
So
it does to your system. Okay.
so even though ice does have good properties, I think there's a lot of benefit to doing the flip side of it. If someone just can't stand the
Was
cold.
it like a 40 degree or 60 degree difference? Wherever your temperature is at, you want to be able to lower it like 40 or 60 degrees.
in the perfect world, after every workout, you'd be doing that.
If I could, that was probably the best shape I was in and felt the best as far as, I had joint pain, I had knee surgeries growing up, so I'd go jump in just like him. You have injuries going in, and you're just, it sucks when you do it, but when you get out, you just feel like you have a new body, and the energy that you feel. But it is time consuming, and so there again, you have to like figure out, okay, how much time in my day do I want to spend going to work out that day? How much do I want to spend? Let's say you're doing an hour and a half workout. You're going in to do the hot tub, the cold tub. That could be another right there, 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. So at the gym, and then cleaning up, showering to get to work to do whatever you got to do. I mean, you could be there for 2 hours. So realistically, does everyone have 2 hours? Some people do.
You
Some
just
people
make
don't.
the time for it. If you really value it, and that's as simple as it.
What's the number one reason people don't work out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to do
say
it.
I don't have
Takes
the
too
time.
much time.
We don't have the time. I don't have the time.
I would say realistically for today's
Hurting.
society with how busy people are, but also to get the benefit of it, if they could do it twice a week, 2 to 3 times a week.
Well, you guys are fitness guys, right? And you are a realtor, and I'm a teacher that have his own business that does that. We all have fitness as a part of our lives.
Right.
I think one thing I love to stress, and I think it's super important, is that it's not an optional piece of the formula. You run.
I do.
I hate running, right? I used to run. Now I don't anymore because I don't want to pound the pavement on the reconstructed knee. We could discuss that. I mean, I can feel it. It's different than it used to be. So it's bikes and all that kind of stuff. But it's an important part of the formula, isn't it? I mean,
Exercise in general is a good
I would argue that
portion of the formula.
that's compounding interest. Like people, that's the easy thing. No, that's not it. That's the easy thing to cut out the routine. But I think it's costing you more in performance. You just don't see it that way.
Right.
In my personal opinion. Like it's so easy to press snooze and roll over, but then your body doesn't feel as good. Your mind's not as good. All those various things. And you're just a business owner or a mom or a dad or whatever. Personally, I just think it's it's not like it'd be good to have, but you could eliminate that piece.
I would definitely like added it into the routine more.
But you can't do a
more,
pro athlete 2 hour every day, I guess, right?
More so than not, because at the end of the day, you're only as good as you feel. And the older you get, the way our bodies work, you're less elastic, flexibility's not there, you have more joint pain, the body doesn't recover as quick. So everyone is looking for the answer of how do I feel good, how do I perform, how do I last long, how do you think clear.
Yeah.
Workout wise, as people get older, when they don't have that flexibility, they lose the alignment of their muscles, so their strength goes down. So then what you end up seeing is people spend more, they're in a hurry, they go to the gym, they spend more time going straight to a certain exercise, whether it's a planned exercise or not, just because they're stressed out, they want to get in, get their workout out, and they're out the door. Less on the flexibility of recovery, and then so the injuries add up. Everything else just kind of it negatively spirals to the point where their body's in a state of pain. They don't feel good. Well, then that affects their mind, how they think, and then they we're tied back to the fear of working out or not wanting to, because all of a sudden they've just spiraled into this negative arena. And so I would say, like right now, I'm 35. I spend more time on flexibility and recovery stuff than I do working out. Yet I feel like I get better workouts.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just like keeping your body, and everyone's body is different, but you got to keep yourself to where you're feeling good, because if you're not feeling good, you're not productive.
No doubt. Like, you can't do any of the stuff. You can't face any fears if you don't feel like it. If you literally don't feel like it.
Right.
And again,
I disagree with that.
Real.
That you can't overcome things if you don't feel like it. Like you, yeah, because.
Yeah, but I get.
If that's what the phrase was, what you said was like, I don't know if
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you can
Certain
control the way
things.
that you feel.
The biggest thing was
we're getting at.
I had to overcome. I don't know. Maybe I heard it wrong, but I just know my feelings were the biggest enemy, and I had to go everything against what I felt in order to become the person I wanted to be. Involving money, relationships, my own life, thinking, am I going to die in this situation or not?
Yeah.
I had to die to how I felt. So, in my opinion, I feel like I don't care how you feel. I don't care what you think. I love you and I will help you get there, but ultimately you're the one who's responsible for getting over those feelings. I had to do it. I'm telling you, you can do it, but you have to be willing to think, is it worth it to you? Do you want to live in this bondage for the rest of your life? No? Well, something's got to shift and it's got to be big. So that's just for me. Feelings, you're gonna. It's better for you to perform well if you feel good. But what if you don't? You know, what are you still gonna do? Because a lot of freaking old people, they have to deal with it all the time. They say getting old ain't for wusses because you have an injury here, you have this, and it's like, what do? Well, focus less on yourself and focus on what you want in life. You want to spend more time with your kids.
That's right.
You want to encourage somebody else who's got their whole life ahead of them. You need to encourage them and get outside the way you
Monster
feel,
in the
because
closet.
if not, you will just stay there. And it helps. I was a caretaker for somebody for over 10 years, and I know what it's like for your life to feel like it sucks and you're not going to feel any hope getting out of it. But that person had to force themselves to say, you know what, I feel like crap. I have to force myself to forget how I feel and focus on somebody else.
Take yourself out of it. Think about other people that you're letting down.
Yeah,
that's also. I'm surprised that fear hadn't come up yet. Because I mean, everybody in here's got somebody that you could let down, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That matters more.
Well, that's a bigger motivator. Look at all the fat people. Most people
depend on you.
A lot of people, their motivation is not to be in better shape for themselves. It's for their kids. They want to get in shape because they don't want to die because of them being out of shape. So that's a bigger motivator. It's not letting down their kids. They'll let themselves down because of maybe self-confidence or whatever. But that's a big motivator, letting it be for somebody else and not letting them down.
All right, for sure. All right, so who's dying to coach somebody else? Is there something somebody's seeing here that they can help with? Or does one of you guys have a question? Hey guys, it's your friend Chris Donaldson here, and I just want to take a moment and thank you for listening to this episode of Office Hours. Of course, everything here is free. The whole goal in the entire Office Hours project here is to provide value to you. So the only thing I ask in return is that you support the podcast in these 3 easy ways. First, go over to christalks.com and join the email list so that you will get exclusive updates, email digests, and other information directly from me. The second thing that you can do is to go review the podcast with 5 stars and commentary on iTunes or wherever else you are listening to the podcast. Reviews are our lifeblood. It's our oxygen. It would mean the world to me if you take a moment and do that. And third is make sure to engage with us on social media. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Chris Donaldson. So at The Chris Donaldson on Facebook and Instagram. You can engage with me on Twitter, which I'm pretty active on, at Chris Talks Daily. And then you can find the videos, highlights, and other content on my YouTube channel. And the easiest way to find that is tv.thechrisdonaldson.com. So if all of that is a lot to remember, just go to the hub of our universe, which is christalks.com. And please make sure to stick around. Let me know what you think of these episodes, and I will keep cranking them out as long as you're here to listen.